Um, I'm gonna say it's 5:32. We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. I'm sorry, I got a few that are gonna pop in. Still, I still got Matt Snyder, who's gonna try to join us, our newest member. I'll introduce him, but in honor of your time and getting to your families, I see Heather has not even left her office yet. So we will look to try to get this done quick. So um, uh, the town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 virus, is currently following the guidance of the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread of all town facilities that are open by appointment only. In accordance with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, all public meetings will be conducted remotely. This meeting will be broadcast live through the local access cable, on Facebook Live, on public access Facebook page, and will be able to be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. The following information is provided for members of the public that wanted to participate, and there's a Zoom meeting, and there's a phone number, and all that stuff. But I'm going to assume that if you're not on this call, you don't really care anymore. So that's the whole thing. So I think I'm going to let's get started if you guys don't. So got the meeting called to order. I'm going to look for any public comment for the board. Nope. Okay. Any public comment from the public? Nope. Okay. Excellent. Meeting minutes. Thank you, Liz. Great job as always. Did you get a chance to look at them, Neil? Oh, you're on mute, buddy. I can't read lips. I did go to RIT, but I can't read lips still. So
Yes, I did.
okay. Okay. All right. Any comments, Dave, yourself too? Oh, that's right. You're a full-fledged member now, Dave. So
Yeah, I think I was present during most of that meeting, but I'll abstain, but I saw no issues with it.
okay. Excellent. All right. I thought everything looked good to me. So I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
All right. Get a second? I'll second. What the hell? I'll second. All right. In favor, Neil?
Yes.
Okay, Dave?
Abstain?
Oh, that's right. Liz? You're on mute, but
Liz,
that's
you're
okay. I
muted.
assume you approve since you wrote them. Oh, you're still on mute on me.
There we go.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And it's
All
a
right.
yes. It's a yes for me. Okay. Super. All right. Okay, so let's go with now the competitive grant, progress on present projects. I have no updates on the teen center. John and I were just talking. The quotes I got were too ridiculous. So myself and one of the other board members and maybe a couple of kids are going to end up doing the teen center if we can. Well, I should say staff members. A couple of the staff members are going to end up doing the teen center type of thing. John, anything for you on the schools?
So all the school projects are done. As I was reviewing the spreadsheet that Karen Brochu sent out yesterday, I see that I'm over $450 on the domestic hot water project. So I need to see if if we can cover that out of what we saved, and I didn't expend for the Turkey Hill appliances. So overall, we're under, but I did go over on that one by $450.
Oh, the nerve. Okay.
That was the primary school?
That was the primary school domestic hot water. That was $9,950, and we had 9,500.
Okay. You couldn't squeeze Unitil or National Grid for a couple more bucks?
No, we bought that hot water heater with a discount applied by the distributor of the hot water heater.
Okay.
So there was another more we could do with it.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I would suggest that we ask Karen Chapman and Kelly Brown, because I believe at the beginning they had said if we could shift funds between projects. So
Yeah, I think that's so reach out to both of them by Friday and ask if they could, what it would take to do that $450 transfer between the appliance project and the domestic hot water project.
Okay, excellent. All right. All right. And Rob, on your side?
Yeah, so Kit ended up getting updated price lists on all the appliances that we're looking to get. What he didn't do, and I reminded him, is he's got to go back and check with the appliance company that they're all Energy Star. So I know he's been tied up. I'll follow up with him on that. That was, I think, last week. He got the updated price list. So I'll double check with him, make sure they're all Energy Star, and we'll get them ordered.
Excellent, excellent. And was there any, as far as the upgrades and the public safety and all that stuff, I think those were completed, if I remember correctly?
I'd have to check on that. I don't recall offhand. What specifically outside of the refrigerators, public safety, was there a range or a dishwasher?
No, no, this wouldn't be appliances. This would be, hold on, let me pull it up. This was, there was
Retrofitting.
retrofitting and all that stuff. So basically the idea was at the public safety building, there was some issues with the system and they were going to be getting those fixed.
That's it. It seems to ring a bell. I'll double check with Kit, but I do believe that's been done.
Okay. Let me just pull this up. Sorry, let me pull this up while I got it. I'm just waiting for my slow computer. That doesn't want to do anything. Here we go. Let me just do this now, guys, because I'm share screen one, share. Okay. All right. So yeah, so we had hot water conservation, Turkey Hill, public safety building. There was the appliance replacement that we just talked about, Department of Public Work appliance replacement. The public safety, it was a retrofit commissioning repairs.
Okay.
And there was a report that was done, and then there was a bunch of things suggested as like similar to like fixing valves or other things that needed to be done on that.
Yeah, that does sound familiar. I'll double check with him.
Okay. Okay. All right. And I know you signed up for had somebody signing up for the building operator certificate.
Yep, Kit is signed up for that. He actually had his first class this week.
All right. Oh, so he is a dangerously trained professional now. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And Heather, we're okay with the police department vehicle replacement. You spent that money well?
Sorry, I'm still muted. Yes,
Okay.
both those vehicles were purchased. The second cruiser should actually be in hand already.
Okay. Okay. So really it's mostly now we're down to is the teen center pipe valve fitting installation, this one here, and then some of the appliance replacements for the senior centers and things like that. Okay, we're doing pretty good here then. All right. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so we got that. That's done on that agenda. Hold on, let me stop sharing here. Stop share for a second. You don't need to see my work stuff just yet. All right. And all right, so now we're up to the review of the Unitil letter with the pricing to purchase and all that stuff. Appreciate the email that we went around and the suggestions that folks had. To give an update, Heather, are we on for tomorrow?
Yes, 1 o'clock.
Okay. Can you send me the Zoom again?
Yes,
When you get a chance.
Adam hasn't sent it out yet, I believe, so I
That's
will
all
when I receive it.
No problem. Okay. All right. Excellent. So Heather and I are meeting with town council tomorrow to talk about, what we can do. Dave, since you had a discussion with MRP and a few other folks, or I got the initials wrong, do you want to give us a quick rundown of what they told you when it came to this whole streetlight thing and purchasing them?
Sure. I actually forwarded this to Heather today. I meant to do it previously. I got a hold of the Department of Public Utilities, was interviewed initially by a secretary and then My questions were passed on to a Sean Hanley, and he's a supervisor in the division that deals with streetlights and municipalities. In his answer to me in an email, he basically gave me the generic, towns are allowed to purchase streetlights under Mass General Law, such and such. But then the second half of his paragraph stated, if the town and the electric company are unable to agree on a purchase price, then the parties petition the DPU to resolve the dispute pursuant to MGL C 164, Section 34A-D. Please feel free to contact me or our legal division should you have further requests. So it's another resource really for Heather in her pursuit of whether we can get an agreement with Unitil. In regards to the concern about purchasing non-operating streetlights versus operating streetlights, he said that's something they would not get involved in.
Okay, so, and so it sounds like the bottom line is that there is some kind of arbitration panel that's available.
Right, and that process, once filed, has a 60-day window on it.
Oh, cool. Okay, so it's not like DMV where you wait 6
Yeah,
months.
it won't go forever.
Okay, okay. All right. All right. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so at least at that. So as I mentioned, Heather and I have a conversation with town council tomorrow to talk about this whole thing. I think we're all in agreement that the fact that even though there's been nothing, virtually no repairs done in the past 2 years, the price having gone up and then leveling off makes no sense at all when you look at the depreciation and what they told us originally about these streetlights. So I'm having a tough time understanding how they're coming up with these numbers. Heather, do we have a time frame that you need to have this done by?
For the purchase,
Yes.
so it will have to be before we apply for the grant.
Well, actually, so Kelly's told me that as long as we have a agreement in principle, then
Yep.
we can still apply for the grant.
Okay,
Okay. Because they know that they have many towns that have, they have other towns that have had issues like this.
Mhm.
So, okay. All right. So you're
And-
not in any rush to spend the money then?
No, that money can carry over.
Okay. After all, with today's rates, it's earning amazing interest, right?
Mhm.
These days. Okay. All right. So then let's see for the steps to conversion, we talked about, you folks reminded me that I should have, the idea is to have a request for design services first, and then having that person help with the request for actual replacement of the lights. So John was nice enough to forward to me, and I sent out to everybody the link or the information on what Era had done in 2017. I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to look through that proposal at all.
I looked
But-
at it.
I guess the question, to me, I'm not sure if there was, to me, it seemed pretty straightforward of what it was asking. It gave a lot of detail. I was very excited about some of the, let me go exactly to certain sections here. Yeah, so I'm gonna jump to certain sections here for you guys. Oh, shoot, I don't want to do that. Layout. Why is this showing up with this layout? View, that's what it is. Read mode.
So I noticed that proposal was a qualitative proposal as opposed to lowest bid. So I don't know if we want to go that route or just go with the lowest bid, lowest qualified bid. Basically, the qualitative means that you look at these other things and whichever bid meets the standard is the best bid without looking at the price, then you look at their price and you don't look at anybody else's price if their price is within your budget. So it means you may not, you may end up with the best company to do the job, but it may not be the lowest price.
Okay. Is that, well, so for those folks who do this more, is that better or does that make a difference?
Does
It's like
benefit
pros and cons.
both, yeah.
If you put in like your basic requirements as like a standard of you need to meet all these requirements in order to be a qualified bidder, then you can go with the lowest bidder as long as, you know, we're I guess explicit in what our expectations are.
I would, yeah, completely agree with Liz.
Okay. All right, so we look to somewhere changing that to the lowest bidder.
To explain IFB instead of a RFP process.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Basically, invitation for bids instead of a request for proposal process.
Okay.
Heather, is that because we will already spell out the scope of work?
Like Liz said, if you're explicit in your criteria of what your minimum qualifications are, then you should secure the right person and someone who's well qualified to do the job.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, because that's, I felt that was actually, they did a good job of that. If I go to page like 14, they had a comparative evaluation criteria and they labeled out, you know, a highly advantageous, not advantageous and unacceptable. Here, let me actually do this again. Share again. So if you can see down here on page 14, they have these comparative evaluation criteria. And I felt that that kind of would lead us to being that it would allow us to, even though it's the lowest bid, we would be able to put a criteria on each one of the tasks that they have.
Yeah, I think you can incorporate some of that expectation into minimum requirements. I mean, I had to look back at what each one is, but it just, if you go this route, then you may not end up with the lowest bid. And, you know, so that's like a call that we want to make on what's more important.
Right.
But with this, it seems, I mean, it seems like we could set the expectations for a qualified designer for this that has the, you know, the requisite experience and skill set.
Okay. Okay. So it did
seemed-
spell out a little bit of minimum requirements for the person and, you know, and what was expected in the proposal. Let me go back up a
One of the
bit.
things that was nice about their approach was that you can end up with the lowest lifetime cost and not necessarily just the lowest bid.
Okay.
You
That's
know, where
true.
somewhere in there they put, you know, we, because of the way we're setting it up, if you can justify a lower lifetime cost, that would be a selection criteria that we could use. And I'm not sure if we do just lowest bid, that would eliminate that as a component or.
I think it kind of would need to eliminate that as a component. I don't think you could put that in minimum requirements,
Yeah,
but I don't know. I defer to you, Heather, on that.
Can you point out the section?
yeah, I just have it from memory.
Yeah, I remember reading something about that and that's.
Yeah, there it is. The town,
Yeah.
town of Lunenburg desires to meet the goal, lowest lifetime cost. As a result, price for design services is important. However, higher design prices may be viewed favorably if a respondent can demonstrate their approach will better meet the goals of minimizing lifetime cost.
I
So I
think
thought
you
that was
can
kind of a nice,
incorporate- I think you would be able to incorporate that under the scope. And as far
Mhm.
as deliverables, that the expectation is that the town would be looking for a design that reflects minimizing lifetime costs for the system.
And if you did the IFB, you would have a
IFB.
situation where someone could come in with the lowest initial cost, but maybe someone else has a proposal that's higher cost, but lower lifetime. Could we select that higher cost, lower lifetime?
No, it's strictly low bid
Right.
and that they meet they're the lowest, most responsive bidder.
Well, so that's a good question. So I can understand that then for the design, am I necessarily looking for the lowest bid or the best design to help us with the whole streetlight thing? Right? Because if I have the best design, then the ultimately the streetlight installation cost, the retrofit should be that I can do with the lowest bid, I would think.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well. I think if we put it this way, we'll be maximizing the designer's input, and rather than just having them give us a low cost design.
And we're also looking for their help when it comes to this talks about not just the design, but the procurement of the product, talks about the installation. They have to be involved from womb to tomb with this, which is something that it sounds like as a group, as a town, we don't really have that resource we don't have a resource to do that ourselves, if that makes sense.
Do you think that we could ask the designer to do some of that like prevailing wage work as well? And I guess this question is really more for Heather, because I've never been in a position to have to try to put those pieces together.
They do have something about selecting the company and working with them and monitoring their activities, but I don't know.
But their monitoring was like one site visit. So
Right.
it wasn't the level of monitoring that somebody has to deal with prevailing wages. They need to get documentation every payroll period.
Okay.
It's a little more specific to get into that kind of work. So I just don't know if designers have
That's something we would have to do.
I assume that this prevailing wages is going to apply.
Would it apply in this if whoever is doing it is authorized by the state that they're able to do this? Would prevailing wage be in effect for this? I don't know.
They're just talking from a designer's oversight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. The oversight that the designer provides.
Right,
would-
so here, if you look at this thing of in here, installation management, it does to Liz's point, it doesn't talk, it only talks about this one visit. But it doesn't really talk about monitoring the wages or anything like that.
I don't think their wages would be prevailing wages. It'd be similar to hiring an architect or engineer for a construction project oversight. We don't pay them prevailing wages.
Right. But could we ask them to monitor the prevailing wages of the actual
I see what you're
installation?
saying.
Because they're going to design that those specifications. Can they also take on that project management role of monitoring the prevailing wages and anything else that's required like that? I'm not sure what else would.
So submittals, they'd review, similar to reviewing submittals, they'd review the contractor's submission for waiver.
Yeah.
and-
Go out and do wage interviews and make sure that information is provided to you guys to then submit appropriately to. Honestly, when I've had to deal with this, it's been at the federal level, so I haven't been doing it. I don't know where the information goes at the state side.
Okay.
But
So if I look at task 5 here, then let's look at this, and blah, 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 blah. As you talked about, description of work, reference standards, submittals. Then it talks about a specification should also include any requirements the designer has regarding its administrative duties, construction administrative duties, such as the use of data collection mechanisms. And then an invitation for bid. This is simply a low bid selection process for all respondents that meet the minimum criteria. So they set this up so that they, exactly that, they would look at a RFP for the designer and an IFB for the LED installer.
Other way around. I think it's an RFP for the actual installation, right? And the IFB is for the design services. That's where you get into the qualitative stuff.
Oh, I thought that, so this was a request for proposal for the LED light designer. And then he talks about that part of their deal is to work on the contract and to review the contract of people, of the companies that submitted it. And
Mhm.
that submittal would be an invitation for bids.
Yeah, I don't think
Oh.
we can do an RFP for the installation. I think it would
Okay.
have to be an invitation for bid.
Right, so they have to, the vendor should plan to read all bids to confirm which vendors
Mhm.
have met the minimum criteria that they have set out in this RF, in their design proposal. Oh, let me let Matt in. Okay. All right, Matt, welcome to the team. You're, we'll do the introductions later and all that stuff for you, but welcome to the team.
Thank you.
So we're talking here about just the way we want to do the proposal for the our request for proposal for the LED light designer.
Yep.
And whether, there's two different methods of whether it's a request for proposal, which means you don't necessarily take the lowest bidder, but you take what you feel is the best project, if I can
Yep.
say it that way, or an IFB, an invitation for bid, which means you're taking the lowest bidder. So we were discussing whether it made sense to have the designer be an RFP, so we would get the best proposal, best design criteria. And then it would be safe to do a IFB, low bid selection process for whoever is going to install the lights, type of thing. Because we'd have the oversight of part of the installation management is their oversight of the making sure that the vendor has done everything correctly.
Right.
So do you guys
I didn't know
agree
you
that
were
that's
still
probably
here. I
the
was gonna
better
shut the
method?
TV off.
Sorry, Dave. So are you guys your thoughts on this? Does that seem like it's the better way to do it? Or,
I absolutely think RFP is the way to go, where you can bring other factors than just cost into the picture and get the best proposal.
okay,
Yeah, I agree with that. For the designer.
Mhm.
for the designer, yeah, that's what I'm looking at as well. And then, if we feel the design is a real solid design, which is something I feel as a group, we don't really, hey, you guys can correct me, but as a group, A, we don't have the time, and B, we don't have the expertise to really do this LED design well, that's what we really need is the best possible design, as well as the ability to have that oversight of somebody who's done this before, more than anything else.
Right.
All right. One of the questions here is on the installation management. Here it says perform at least one infield spot check. Would we want to have more than that? This is saying you have one spot check during the first 10% of light installation. I don't know if you'd want to have a second spot check coming on later, after that 10%. So just to see that, they didn't do the first 10% correct. And then after that, they started to skimp or do things a little bit, miss a few things.
Yeah, I
So-
thought that seemed pretty lean too, for number of on-site inspections. It seemed like more checking up would be beneficial.
I would agree.
I
Okay,
agree as well.
all right. So it would be one in the, I would look to have at least one in the initial 10%. And then another one after 50% or something to that effect?
Just a question, if you go further down this installation management, it says certify that installation complete, meaning that the reported data matches the finalized design. So there was got to be some quality step at the end that where they're, maybe I'm not correct, but it seems as though it's implied that there's something going on beyond this one spot check.
I agree. However, what I've been told by others is that the biggest issue you end up having is with older wires. And that's pretty much the highest time consuming task for them when they're installing the lights
Mhm.
and retrofitting the lights, that if the wires are older, having to actually reroute the pole, reroute it from the arm all the way down back to the pole is a time consuming event. So I would, I don't know if, it would be done perfectly in the beginning, or how do you do you just go by their word, or would you want to have a spot check just to make sure that that was being done? That's the question. Where,
If we're asking them to do project management oversight, I would assume then they are signing off for requests for payment. If the payment's broken into multiple chunks, like if they want to do 25, 50, 75%, then they really need to go out and inspect before they can approve that payment. So they should be going out multiple times. Of course, I don't know if this included that level of project management in there.
okay.
I'd be
Okay.
inclined to leave the frequency of inspection out and have that be part of the interviewing process of selecting what's their proposal? How are they going to certify that the installation meets their design requirement? Are they going to inspect weekly? Are they going to inspect once? That I think that becomes a part of the selection criteria without us predefining that. The engineer may, or the designer may say, we want to be out there once a week to see what's going on. So I'm inclined to leave it out.
Yeah, I agree. I think we could put a line in there that says, please define your quality control process.
Including
Right.
Infield
Frequency of
inspection.
infield
or-
Yeah.
spot
yeah.
inspection.
I would hesitate on that. I think we need to set minimum standards that a minimum expectation that they're out there inspecting at least X number of times, whatever feels comfortable. And if they want to do more, that's great. But they could say, oh, we don't need to go out there. We're just going to review everything electronically. If everything else is great, would you discount that bid because of that issue?
Okay. But I guess that would be one of the criteria, right? Is how they took on this whole idea of the installation management, because that's really one of the key things that I think we need from them is this installation management more than anything else, so that we're not putting a burden on the town employees or anybody else to do that. Okay. So is there a way, do you think there's a way of phrasing it where we say, where we can put it in a different area, where we can put it saying one of the criteria saying, number of field inspections, and just let them fill in the blank? Or, how are field inspections, what is your plan for field inspections as
I
part of the
think-
criteria?
I think you need to define a minimum criteria. I think that 10% visit and spot check is good because, as someone mentioned, if they're being installed incorrectly and it carries on for too long, it becomes a huge issue. And I think by defining a minimum, and then allowing them to propose if they have other thoughts or other ideas on how you do this and how you then certify it at the end of the project. Let them define that to us, and so long as it meets our minimum, I think you're safe. But I do like the idea of allowing a designer to tell us and propose to us that, well, this is how I've done it in the past, it works really well, and this is why. If we're providing a rating of, we can still quantitatively look at it and give it a score. If it meets our minimum, that's great, because if you don't give a minimum and they come in and they're highly advantageous on every other category, but they're less than advantageous on their construction administration, based on how they're going to inspect it and what they explain to us, then they might still be the most qualified bidder, but yet we're not getting a great product in the end because they don't have good quality control. So I don't know if you can disqualify them based on just one category. So I think you have to give them a definite, at least a minimum.
We could also ask for like a unit price item. What's the cost of an inspection? So whether that's a single day's inspection, that if they're going to come out, they're going to observe the entire day's operations or whatever it is. But we could put a line item in that they quantify, I assume, quantify what the cost of an inspection is. And then based on all other qualifications, we could say, well, with that unit price, we would like to see a no fewer than 10 inspections or something along those lines. Without enough experience of how involved this is, I would hate to overset our minimum. I mean, maybe it's just not requiring a high degree of inspection service for what it is, but I know being in construction, it's really nice to have the inspector available to see problems when they come up. So that's why I struggle with setting any kind of minimum standard unless we have some basis for that. My read on this is it's inspect once in the first 10%, not inspect 10% of the install.
Right.
And I think one is definitely.
In looking at this again, if you go up to task 5, line 3 says the spec should also include any requirements that the designer has regarding its construction administration, such as the use of data collection mechanisms, reporting frequency, availability for training. And really, if you look at the installation management, this thing is really to catch a problem with the way they're doing it, to look at it early and make sure they're doing it right. And so that's really a one-time thing to catch that. And maybe if we beef up number 3, or if number 3 is sufficient, that would be the means for the quality control overall. Like, how are we going to know what the quality of the overall installation would be? That's kind of how I read number 3 there. So how are they going to collect data on the install? What's the frequency and things like that? Because really the way it's worded in the installation management is they're going to inspect, they want to get it early, they want to make sure things are being done correctly. And then you can kind of assume from that there's no training or installation issues that are systematic.
Okay. Well, and even so, if you look in here at the last line of number 3, specific timing of the spot check should be unannounced to the installer. So, obviously then they just happen to show up to request that they go on the bucket truck and look at the work that was done.
Mhm.
So, that's kind of nice in the fact that to the point of if we're looking for something that might be wrong, you're going to find it in
Yeah.
the first 10%. And maybe, as you guys say, maybe the idea is leave it open as part of the thing. We can give them a hint that we're looking for something more as far as inspections, and let them tell us what their best practice is. Maybe their best practice is saying to us, we've done 10%, we've done in the first 10%, we've never had an issue after that. Fine.
Mhm.
I mean, if they can verify that, I mean, is it up to us to argue with them that it might happen, right?
Do we expect this designer to be the person that is certifying the percent of work completed in order for payments to be issued.
It, I would look at it as saying yes, because electronically send municipality weekly updates on installation progress.
Well, it wouldn't, I don't think that would mean that. I think it would be explicit, and I don't think this includes that. I don't think this request for proposal is including that, because I think it would be more explicitly stated in there if that was the case. And I don't remember seeing anything, but I was skimming somewhat when I was reading it. So I just think if that's our expectation, then we need to be a little more explicit in here in that, and we do then want them to inspect prior to approving a payment. And I have really no idea how long an installation job like this takes, so I have no concept of how many payments would get issued. You know, if it was a quick job, then it might just be like 2. But if it was something that took a couple of months, then there may be more than 2 payments issued to the contractor. So
And on
I think
that
it's a
point,
question we need to answer in order to then be able to finish putting this together.
right. And I think many years ago when we had Temco kind of give us an unsolicited bid on doing this, they talked about a 3-week timeline to change all the lights.
Okay.
This RFP is from the town of Air, right? Do we have a contact there we could ask about how the inspectional services actually went?
I assume that the DP, that the folks are still there. I guess we can try to reach out to them. Okay. John, when you found this online, was there information about the bids or the winning, as far as the installation?
I didn't really see anything on that, but, like most design proposals, you're looking for the best designer, somebody that, has experience with this, can put the RFP out there, or the invitation to bid out there, and can supervise or monitor the construction progress.
I would
Okay.
include review and approval of payment requisitions and change orders.
So I'm sorry, what was that, Heather? Can you say that again?
Review and approval of payment requisitions and change orders.
Yeah, they have line 6 under installation, line 6, it talks about the change orders, but not the standard pay requisition. So we could probably combine that together in that bullet.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
I guess I would offer too, if you have a list of questions that specifically we could talk to Air about, I have no problem reaching out to the DPW if they, administered this project and, going through a list of questions with them.
Okay. All right. I'll take that I'll take that for the group as an action. If you have any, questions, if you want to, we can do it through an email or something like that. I'm happy to consolidate for Rob. I don't think we need to do that tonight. The list of questions. Unless you guys want to do that tonight. I'm not getting a ton of enthusiasm, but that's okay. Your choice.
I'd want to put a little thought into it.
Yeah.
I know.
Same thing.
Listen, you guys have experience with my meetings now, guys. I'm not looking to be on till 9 o'clock at night. That's for sure. Okay. All right. All right. Was there anything else in here so I looked at it as up further. We had the scope of work and deliverables. That's fine. That seemed okay. Terms and consideration, proposal preparation was fine. Technical proposal, I thought all this was fine. was just simple a lot of boilerplate reading. Um, and,
There was mention in here about GIS inventory and being able to manage the light fixtures with a GIS system after the fact. I didn't know
yes,
if that was something that we had been considering or talking about or not, if that was necessary. So I kind of highlighted every reference to that as to whether or not we would be looking for that level of documentation. So,
well, right now, the documentation that we have, the best thing we've ever received from the guys at Unitil is this, that it's at poll number
yeah,
this on this street.
right,
I'm sorry. So on Flat Hill Road. So it doesn't really give us any kind of GIS coordinates. You have to kind of make sure that the poll numbers are there.
right,
So
right. So I just want to make sure if we were also pursuing that level of data collection and we have the system to manage that too. You know, if they go and put this nice GIS model together with all that data on it, but we can't use it, what's the point? So I
okay.
just don't, not knowing what we're set up for already, do we have a platform where we would actually be able to interact with that data and make beneficial use of it to route us to the right light fixture and whatnot?
I guess, Rob, I'll ask you that question. Do you
Yeah,
know if we have anything?
we have, well, we have our online mapping through the town, which GIS could, data could be uploaded to it if there's we get a layer back at the end of the project. We also have we have a subscription to ArcGIS, which it's not really up and running yet, but we do. I think in the end, regardless of the status of our own internal GIS capabilities, I think we want to get the data on a layer that can be incorporated into whatever we're doing in the future. They're there, they can do it. It should be not a simple task, but I think a task that we should include, and then we have the data.
Yeah, it makes sense. I just figured it was worth calling out.
Yep,
And-
no, absolutely.
Are the installers the maintainers going forward?
No,
Um,
I think what you probably end up doing is, and I don't know if you include it in the proposal or the invitation for bids, but I think you probably end up, my guess is we end up with a contract with the installer as the maintenance contractor for the first go around. But that's something to talk about and how you do that.
Right, and I was just thinking in terms of the GIS data, the near term, that would be, if they would use it, that would be an immediate reason to have it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would think that once this party's on board, that we'd talk to them strategies of a singular proposal for installation and maintenance, or two separate. They might have some insight into that, but I would think you'd want your installer to be your maintainer as well.
It certainly would keep them honest in their installation if they're on the hook to maintain them once they're up.
Yeah, good point.
and I would look at it, it's because to us, as a town, I would think it would be easier for us that at least the first maintenance contract was taken care of
Mhm.
by the installer.
Right.
Because this way we could always have them, maybe there's a couple of extra bulbs they have or something to that effect. Because they tell us within the first 2 years, that's when you're gonna see any problematic LEDs. And after that, they're good for that 10+ years type of thing. So I look at that. So guys, I want to get back to a little bit on, we talked about task, the idea of the way they did it. So I looked here further of the, what they're expecting. What is this section? This section is technical proposal. And under here on page 13, they talk about task 5, explain the process, roles, and responsibility in the installation and maintenance procurement process, blah, blah, blah. And they talk about this. Then they say vendor may propose alterations to the scope if it believes it will provide sufficient value to justify any potential cost change. So does this cover us for the fact that they were telling them that if they propose for the oversight of the installation, that they can propose a, more than one inspection? Or they should be proposing more than one inspection? Does that make,
I think if, we're looking for that possibility, we should make it explicit to them, rather than them trying to read into it. That's my thought.
I know, I also look at it from my side is, from my business is the idea is that if you believe you have higher quality standards than others, you emphasize it in your proposals type of thing. And it's, do I force them, or if they truly believe they have a higher quality, will they emphasize it on their own? I mean, yeah, it's okay on that either way. All right, so now guys, we can go through this again. What I can do is mark this up again and send it out to folks with ideas. Do we have a timeline that we want to have this thing out by? When's the competitive grant is going to be in October? Is my understanding is that we have to submit by October, right?
I don't recall the deadline.
Okay, I think it was October, but even so, the problem being is, we won't know we won't be able to apply for the installation grant if we don't have some idea what the installation cost would be. Now, this doesn't get us to an installation cost, does it? This gets us just to a design and somebody to oversight it.
And can we even put this out to bid if we don't have secured funding for the design? I mean, because we could bid it, but then we couldn't sign a contract, right? If we don't have a budget for it.
Right.
So do we need to
appropriation.
apply for the grant before we can even do this? Or find some other money for this part? But I don't see that happening.
Is there any reason why you can't stipulate in there that, get it out there and get the proposals back, but it would be pending funding?
So I did put something up here. I changed the wording a little bit. Where is that here? Yeah, so the project timing and budget, the town of Lunenburg has recently purchased the streetlights from Unitil and is ready to proceed the project. Upon selection of a designer, the town will be seeking a Crane Community Grant to fund the project. Does that cover it?
I don't know. I feel like we're taking a risk if we do something like that, because you're basically saying to the folks that might propose something, we don't actually have the money yet. So are they going to put the time and effort into a proposal knowing that we don't have the money or may not ever get the money? Like, how real is this project to them if we don't have the money to pay for it?
On page 7, task 2 talks about the designer assists the town in identifying and applying for rebates and other potential grant funding. So I don't know if they engage this entity for other sources of funding beyond this grant we're talking about, or if it was to help finalize and secure the grant we're talking about.
I don't think that clause refers to payment for their services. It would be related to funding for the installation, for the next steps.
Okay.
So is this a question for Kelly, maybe? How do we orchestrate the timing on all this stuff because I'm sure
Okay.
we wouldn't be the only town to be in this situation.
No, not at all.
I think this is a question for the town, frankly. It's, what's our position on risk here?
No, we can't award we can't award a project without an appropriation. So the first question would be, when would the funding what's the funding timeline for that grant? When would it be awarded and the funds available? And time it accordingly with that.
Yeah, so she did say to us that the grants can include both the cost for this the cost for the designer and the cost for installation. However, how do you come up with the number if you don't, I mean, I understand we could send out the RFP and get a number for the designer, but how do we get a number for the installer without something already done, without the horse being done? No. All right, I'll talk to Kelly. Talk to Kelly about the timing of this, what other towns have done and what can be done on this thing. Well, just the purchase of this, Heather, is we're probably going to save you guys $35,000 right there, without having to pay the maintenance cost on this thing. And after all, the town doing the maintenance can't be any worse than Unitil right now, I think we've proven.
That's true. We could probably do better than 2 light bulbs in 2 years.
Well, no, worse than that is that as David passed out, gave us that thing about the person saying there's these lights out, and then the police department verified that the lights are indeed out or not working or never replaced. I don't even think we have to replace 2 a year and still be better than Unitil. At that
And
point.
keep in mind, that's only a third of the town that was surveyed there.
I understand. That's the sad part about that whole thing.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, thoughts on what's next, guys?
What about talking to some other communities about what their costs were, so we can start to at least have like estimates, comparable estimates? I mean, I realize that time has passed and costs change over time, but unless I don't know how else to get to a grant application if we don't have the money for the designer services to get us an estimate for the installation costs. Like
Right.
we're kind of stuck unless we can get estimates from other communities that are similar.
Okay. Well, I guess, Rob, I'm going to put that as one of the questions we'll probably end up with when you talk to the folks in air of roughly what the installation cost was.
Yeah,
Because,
absolutely.
know,
But
I'll
also,
try and-
wouldn't Kelly have that information from other towns that they've given money to?
Good point.
Yeah.
That way you could get a big survey maybe of 5 towns and numbers of lights and stuff like that, and it might be more recent.
Yeah, you could look at the rough unit costs for each and kind of try to figure out what an average is and
Yeah.
how it would apply to our count.
And then
Okay.
in the same discussion, you could try and see how did they sequence, did they get a town appropriation for the design, or is there a way it can be rolled in efficiently into the grant somehow that we could do it?
right. Right.
Might be good for her to attend one of these meetings so we could
Okay.
fire
So-
away at her.
All right. So let's maybe do that then. I'd look to have a meeting again in June. Okay. And what I'll do is let me see what Kelly's schedule looks like, and I'll coordinate that with everybody else's schedule to have Kelly attend one of these meetings so we can get a better feeling for things. In the meantime, we can work on some questions for the town of Air.
And for
And
Kelly too. ahead
and
of
for
time.
Kelly, yeah, and for Kelly, guys, give me some questions for Kelly, just to make sure they're done correctly. And that way, it sounds like we have time to put this RFP together. And it's in its entirety. I don't see a resolution with Unitil happening tomorrow. Do you, Heather?
No.
It's gonna be a while. I think that process, we're looking at months for that process to take, I think.
Right.
So, I just want to make sure that my biggest thing is making sure that we have everything ready for the next grant proposal timeframe, more than anything else. Agree?
Yes, and we have to close out all our current projects on the competitive grant that we have remaining.
Yes, yes. So
Or
I'll
we
look to,
have-
I'll look to have that done by the June. I guess that's a good question on that one. As far as paying for materials for like, rolls of insulation, which I'd probably end up going to like a Lowe's to get, and pipe covering, which could be a Granger or another place. Is there an easy way to do that for the teen center?
Rob, do we have an account?
I believe we have a Granger account. And then we do, I mean, we have a Home Depot card, the town has, that we use for facilities quite often. Perhaps that's an avenue we can use.
Okay. The only reason I mentioned Lowe's is Lowe's has a bulk discount that's on installation that's very attractive. So once you go over, say, 25 rolls, it's a 30% discount, which Home Depot doesn't do.
Yeah, I don't think we have any kind of account with Lowe's.
Okay. Okay. See, you're missing out. They also give you that 5% discount as a contractor too. 10% for military discount. Okay. All right. All right. So let me figure that one out. I'll look at the pricing on both and see what I can do on that. Maybe I don't need that many rolls on it. Okay. But you mentioned you do have an account with Granger?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain we do.
Okay. All right. I'll go for that one too. All right. Excellent. All right. I guess, guys, other topics. I mean, have we beaten the RFP down enough for tonight?
Yeah.
I think we have time left to keep reviewing it. before-
Okay. Okay. And then the question is I guess on the RFP, the police talked about adding a couple of additional lights. Do we look for the design firm to help us when it comes to a proposal on adding additional lights in town? Intersections that they feel would be better served by better lighting?
Can we do that with this grant money? Can we add to what's there, or is it only gonna pay for conversion, purchase and conversion?
It's probably worth collecting that data from them anyway, because it would be a safety concern. And then we can see if it can be funded, or maybe the town says, because it's safety, we're gonna pay that. And you can get a reduced rate because it's part of what we're doing.
Right, because if you look at the numbers that I was seeing for the installation and everything, the cost per light is not that great. It's, most of them I'm seeing are around $200 per light. That's including the fixture and the installation. Now, granted, that's not a brand new light. So it's still though, if we're looking at it, like, even if we look at it as say $500 a light, it might for public safety make sense.
Because presumably you'd need a pole and all that stuff, right? I mean,
Well, I'd look for areas where there was already a pole, but there might not be the lighting on it
okay.
right now.
I guess it depends on what the police come back with.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can certainly look to get a unit price when it goes out to bid, and perhaps it's not covered under the grant. I think what you might get into, and I'm not certain on any of it, but there's probably a permitting process with the utility. If you're adding a new light to a pole that doesn't currently have one. I'm not sure what that process is, but I don't know if that kind of throws a monkey wrench into it when you go to do the swap out.
Right. Well, I think they would be excited if they get to charge us for an extra 10 lights, So, and we're going to only make it 9 because we're going to remove the light that's right in front of their offices on Route 13, right? So on 12, I'm sorry, on Route 12, right? So, okay. All right. Excellent. All right. So I think, have we covered pretty much that? So upcoming meetings, like I say, guys, I'll have one in June, roughly this time in June. Let me talk to Kelly, see her availability about a meeting. I'll try to make sure it's not a Tuesday. I'll make sure it's not a Tuesday night and not a Thursday night. Is that yours, Dave? Thursday?
What's that?
Are you Thursday for finance?
Every other Thursday.
Okay. All
So
right.
it'll work. We'll make it work.
Okay. Okay. Not a problem at all. Excellent. All right. So I'm going to,
Dave, I do have something to bring up.
sure.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah, Heather, you may be the same thing that I'm bringing up. Does it have to do with the change of this committee?
Yeah, the charge. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think this committee should be aware that we're about to be changed to a standing committee by the Board of Selectmen. And I would ask that the document be shared with all our members because this will be in place by I believe, the first week of June.
Yeah, I was
And that-
gonna ask Dave if I could screen share.
Okay, I will gladly stop sharing because I think we were doing good avoiding being a committee, you know?
Alright.
Does that mean we actually have to vote? I mean, be voted in?
Yeah, that's my concern is that I don't know how they plan to transition this, but it has to be split up into 3-year terms that stagger. So
And
I
what's
don't know how
the
they're gonna do
benefit
that.
of doing that? I mean, it seems like we're on a roll here, just the way we are.
It was
Yeah.
driven by the chair of the Board of Selectmen, so I don't know if the rest of them agree with it, but they've gone along with it.
It also, let's see. All right. Everyone can see.
Not
So
yet.
this is something that was talked about for many years of making, because it's no longer really a task force committee, it's become a standing committee. So
You mean I
that was-
could have ended this 5 years ago? I'm sorry.
yes. So just the charge, if you just want to read along, it just talks about your functions of raising awareness, educating, advising, motivating residents and businesses to reduce waste, reduce energy use, conserve resources, reduce emissions, carbon footprint, and to embrace clean and renewable energy options. Goes into responsibilities of the committee to identify and develop grant submission for Green Communities Competitive Grant annually that corresponds with the mission of the committee and is consistent with the town's goals. Develop action steps to ensure Lunenburg remains designated as a Department of Energy Resources Green Community. Facilitate town participation in DOER programs, grants, and incentives. Serve as an informational resource for town residents and business owners on the benefits of energy and resource conservation. Increase constituents' awareness and promote resource conservation methods, energy efficiency programs, utility rebates, and state and federal programs to promote energy efficiency, waste reduction, recycling, and overall enhancements to long-term sustainability and resilience in response to environmental resource and energy challenges, and report at least once annually on its activities to the board, all of which has and is being done currently. Membership, same consistency, 5-member board. In order to begin on, as other standing committees, they're staggered terms, so all the membership doesn't expire at once. Is so 2 members to be appointed to a 3-year term, 2 members initially to a 2-year, and then the last for 1 year. And then after those expirations, they all serve a 3-year term. Also goes into, in addition to the regular members, the committee shall consult with the town manager, the town departments that oversee the facilities and energy accounts, the school superintendent, the school facilities director that oversees the school facilities and school energy accounts in order to identify future energy projects, areas where there's savings, and vehicles are important as well, because that's included in our report to the state. Goes over voting power, that all appointed members have full voting power. The resignation process, if a member resigns, notify the chairman, the town manager, and the select board. Vacancies are filled in this. So if during your term you didn't fulfill a term, you resign mid-term, the vacancy is filled to fill the remainder of that term. And representations, election of officers annually, what the quorum consists of 3. That's the majority of a 5-member board, and just the standard that all meetings conducted according to open meeting law and comply with state and local bylaws.
Okay, so it's not much different than we're doing now. It's just that we would actually have to go through the process of being reappointed every X amount of years.
Correct. Like all other standing committees.
And we have to become a committee, huh? Okay.
Heather, where is that written?
That,
That's my question.
I don't know if it's written anywhere. I can't think of a place that it would be written. It's practice.
I think I'd like to know
Mhm.
if we're compelled to agree with this.
Or what is the problem that this is solving?
So this
Great question.
has been on the board's action items for a while, as far as making it because basically when the committee was formed, it was a task force, and it wasn't known that it was going to be a standing committee in duration versus say for a few years, and then the committee would dissolve. This is a committee that will eventually, I think, it will be around for a long time.
Or until state funds run out, huh? Okay.
To paraphrase the chairman of the Board of Selectmen's comments, and I'm sorry, I won't get them exact. But number one, he had thought, and this came up during my appointment to this committee.
Yes.
That was the evening that this issue actually came up, because nobody knew what the term was because there was no term. One of his comments was that it was originally a task force to get to the point where the town was deemed a green community. And in his mind, once that happened, then it should have been converted to a committee. I'm not so sure I agree with that, the way the committee's been operating. I mean, it's not a huge deal to convert to this, but I still question as to how do you divvy out the terms? And it will also require that on an annual basis, we reorganize the committee. I mean, we can vote to keep the chair, vice chair, et cetera, the same every year if we choose to, but it just adds another layer of stuff we need to do rather than concentrating on our task. And I'll leave it at that comment-wise.
I agree with the question of what does this solve is more the biggest thing. Now, I mean, listen, Dave, Matt, I'm glad to have you on board, and I'm sorry that you're coming in right at this moment. But the fact of the matter is Neil, Liz, Neil, and I have been struggling for years with just the 3 of us type of thing. And, I would feel that this would almost put more pressure on the 3, it would have put more pressure on us on how we had to do things and how we had to conduct our business. The only thing I like is they're not telling us how often we have to meet. They're not telling us anything like that. But the fact of the matter is I still don't understand why the need for the committee. Is there another term? Is there something that we can do that doesn't require this idea of the terms and just the extra layer of complexity? I guess that's the question more than anything else.
And Dave, they're looking for comments and or pushback by the first meeting in June. Otherwise, they're going to adopt this.
Okay. Oh, I got to stop watching selectmen's meetings too now. Okay, come on.
I guess I understand why this is happening, just for sort of consistency across boards and committees. It makes sense, and as somebody that has to deal with bureaucracy, every day in my work life, this doesn't really bother me. I guess I don't really feel strongly either way on this. I just kind of go with the flow on this one. It feels like most of the things that, we should be doing what this expectation as written is, so why, I don't know. Other than having to like stand in front of the selectmen to get appointed, the rest of it, I feel like we're already doing.
Which
Agree.
is what we did anyway for the task force, right? We had to,
Yeah.
all of us had to go anyway, so.
So now we're legit.
Yeah, and
We
it's the
will
funny
be
thing is,
legit.
a couple of years ago, we were pushing really hard to become a committee, and we're very disappointed when they didn't allow us to be a committee.
And now we are, or now we will be.
And now we're not so sure.
And
Well,
I
is
wasn't
there
aware
another
of that
term?
history either.
Yeah, by the way, is there another term? Is there something else besides this idea of a committee or a task force that would signify it? The only thing I don't like about it is the idea of the having the voting part, where you every 3 years we're subject to having to stand in front of the selectmen again and say, hey, do you want to continue to serve? Or I'm sorry, why should we vote to have you continue to serve?
Right.
The fact that you've dedicated your time, that you are, this is a complete volunteer situation. Why, if I want to keep volunteering, unless the committee says you're a detriment to us, then, what's the harm, type of thing. So I guess that's my question is there anything that doesn't require that we could be, that doesn't require that 3-2-1 term type of thing?
Or maybe another way to look at it, for a while there, as Dave pointed out, we were down to 3 members, and we've had a hard time bringing people on. Is there anything in becoming a committee that would cause us to have to stop doing things? It looks like as long as you have 3, that's a quorum and you can continue.
Yeah.
But as a task force, as with 2, we could continue. And there have been times where it's been really hard to get people to join up. And the way this committee operates, we're going after money on a time basis, and that's the only thing I could see that would maybe cause some problems.
Just to clarify, your quorum is the same as a task force, and operating under the open meeting law and having to post meetings and such and vote on business. It's the same as it is under committee status.
All right. So I guess I agree with the question is why now? And how does it, the question would be is how does this benefit the group at all? And that's what I would take back to the selectmen is how
Is
is
the
this
why
benefiting
now?
the group?
Is the why now Dave Passio's is my fault because we've got our numbers at 5 now, so it's a nice convenient.
Yes.
Right. Without
Hey,
without 5, you'd still be a task force of 3, right?
So to give you a quick history, we started off as a group of 7 with 3 alternates. And we went down to 3. Well, when we went down below 5, I asked, that we got switched from 7 to 5, but then we were down to 3. So it was like for several years we were looking at it as it was just the 3 of us that was and John, making decisions for the whole town, to say the least. So all right. So Heather, I
Dave,
guess
would it be worth asking for? Ultimately, I think this is going to happen. But
Right.
would it be worth asking for the verbiage in there for alternates or associate members? If we can attract 2 or 3 more interested people that can be involved in the conversation, why don't we put that into it?
okay.
That is a good point. It's kind of nice to have some alternates or associates if people were interested.
Right. Okay. Heather, can we put that in there somehow?
I'll propose that to the board the next meeting.
Okay. John, you waving? Are you holding a? Are you?
I'd like to get a comment in on the mission statement.
Yeah.
So the mission statement reads, in my mind, reads heavily for promoting, energy efficiency throughout the town, but I think there's a part of the mission statement needs to be maybe recrafted or added. A big part of what this committee has been about improving and promoting the energy efficiency of the government itself, with the municipal departments. And so I think that needs, and so most of what the grants we're putting in for are in that category. And so I think there should be at least an acknowledgement in the mission statement that that's one of the parts, important parts of what this committee needs to accomplish.
Really good point. And I know like ad hoc, we probably promote, sort of green activities town-wide, but I don't know that we've really done any kind of marketing that encourages individual households to do anything
Right. And I don't
other
think,
than come to town meeting.
yes. And I'm not sure if that's what in fact, I would question if whether that's our charter, because right now I look at our charter as mainly being involved in the competitive grants and looking for additional ways for the town to improve the energy efficiencies, and to looking for ways for the town to improve when it comes to energy efficiencies and saving money. Because I don't know, it's not like we're doing anything where we're helping the townspeople put solar on their houses or anything to that effect. It's really more of helping the town more than anything else.
One last question, Dave.
Sure.
Going into this next round, is the intent going to be that we're just applying for streetlight related money, or are there other projects that are surfacing that will be included?
I'd look for us to be able to, depending on what we hear from Kelly as far as what funds would be available. But so far, what we're seeing is there's plenty of if the projects are correct, they will approve quite a bit of funds for different projects. So Dave, to answer your question, the simple way is yes, I think we're going to be applying for whatever we think makes sense.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I just add on that. So I am going to be working on the next round of school projects, although that's a pretty small number of things currently. But I think from building wise throughout the town, we probably should be looking at trying to get some audits done with a listing of set of projects, because there's things we should be doing that I don't think we've quite gotten our hands around yet. So that audit, and we might have to pay for some of that, or we might be able to get some help with utilities, but I would think audits are going to be important.
Look at that. Just that's when Rob just jumped off on you, John. Did you notice that? As soon as you had an action item for it.
He jumped back in and then turned tail.
Yeah. Agree. I think that's really the key, because I think we found that as a group, it's not, we can't define the projects. We can define some projects, but the big projects that the town needs, we can't define. We're not allowed in the public safety building to go walk around and look at what could be done and things like that. And so I agree that we probably need to get audits done, a fresh set of audits on some of the town buildings that we plan on having for a while, if I can say it that way.
Generally hard to be in a position to be basically producing more work for various departments.
Right. But they can, again, I guess there's quite a few companies in the state of Massachusetts that are willing to do audits in the hope of getting paid, or in the hope of getting the projects, right? So, okay. All right. So let me move on to public comment from the public. No public comments from the board. I heard from Dave and from Heather on that one. I'm going to put Heather as part of the board because she managed to jump in on that to explain that one. So that was a shocker for us. Okay, but not a big deal in the long run, Heather. I don't think it's a big deal. I just think the hardest part is the term limit. If they, I don't know if that's the right term limit, but we can figure that out.
Yeah, I don't think you have too much to worry about. People aren't clamoring.
I know. And you saw even town meeting, I mean, sorry, town election this year was pretty simple to do that ballot itself also. Okay, excellent. All right, anything else, guys, that I'm missing? I'm seeing it's approaching the hour of 7. And it's, I know had you missed the news, but I don't want you to miss the.
Well, it's great to have Dave and Matt on board.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, welcome, guys.
Welcome.
Yes,
Yeah, I
Thank you.
appreciate being
Glad
a
to be part-
full-fledged member.
yeah, yeah.
As you guys know, I've been sitting in on these meetings for a lot of years. And it's something I, excuse me, the Streetlight Project especially, I keyed into many years ago when it was kind of sitting on the side burner. So I look forward to helping bring that to fruition.
Yeah, and already just in this meeting, a lot more inputs and more interaction. It was really good to have you guys on board.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. On that, can I accept a motion?
Yeah, one of the new guys should give it.
Oh, okay.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Do I get a
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. All right, guys, thanks so much for your time. I'll get back to you short, get back to me with questions that you have for Air as well as for Kelly. And we'll try to get those taken care of real quickly. Okay?
Have a
Sounds
good night,
good.
everybody.
All right. Enjoy,
Bye now.
guys. Have a great evening. Thanks.
Good meeting, Dave.
All right,
Thanks.
thanks. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye.